Hi viewers, in this video we will dive into the movie Gladiator. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the review and personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. Aurelius tells Maximus he wants him to become the Lord Protector of Rome after Illyrius' death. Maximus' normal world has been that of Rome, as ruled by the wise and benevolent Marcus Aurelius, but it's already beginning to crumble. Aurelius is dying and his unstable son waits in the wings. Throughout the first act, Maximus is faced with the choice of returning home to his family or remaining to protect Rome. This is a good example of an instance in a flat arc in which the thing the character wants and the thing the character needs actually stand in conflicts, just as in a positive change arc, if only briefly. Commodus murders Aurelius when he learns his father has refused to name Commodus as his successor. After Maximus refuses to join hands with the patricide Commodus, his wife and son are also murdered and Maximus himself is enslaved as a gladiator. Maximus is forced to fight in his first gladiator battle. He stumbles through the first half of the second act, apathetic to life. Even though he is digested by the blood he is forced to spill for the sake of entertainment. He goes through a period in which he struggles to find the strength and conviction to fight for his truth. Maximus arrives in Rome to compete in Commodus' gladiatorial games. He tells Commodus to his face that he will not rest until he can remove him from his father's throne. His motives are further cleared up and brought back into alignment with the truth when he agrees to help Lucilla take down Commodus, not for the sake of vengeance but for Rome's peace and security. Maximus is forced to fight an undefeated arena champion and tigers through the second half of the second act. They victoriously battle this way through Commodus' desperate attempts to kill him. With every victory, he realizes the people near to his cause. Maximus and Lucilla rally senators and soldiers to their secret plan to overthrow Commodus. But they are discovered and several key members of the plot, including Maximus' lawyer servant, making the defeat even more personal to Maximus, are murdered. Maximus himself is captured. Commodus stabs Maximus then battles him one-on-one in the Colosseum. Maximus allies to defeat the emperor only to finally succumb to his own mortal wounds. Maximus recount Rome's over to the Senate and frees the gladiators. He then dies and the people honor him. He leaves behind him a Rome that is a better place even for the gladiators, as Juba says in the final line, "Now we are free." Maximus, I am required to kill, so I kill. That's enough. Proximo, that's enough for the province but not for Rome. A foolish choice in art direction cast a pall over Ridley Scott's Gladiator that no swordplay can cut through. The film looks moody, fuzzy, and indecisive. Its colors are mood tones at the drab even of the palette, and it seems to have been filmed on grim and overcast days. This darkness and a lack of details in the long shot helps obscure shabby effects. The Colosseum in Rome looks like a model for a computer game, and the characters bring no cheer. They are bitter, vengeful, depressed. By the end of this log film, I would have traded any long gladiator victory for just one shot of blue skies. There are blue skies in the hero's team for long ago happiness, but that proves the point. The storyline in Rocky on downwards, the hero, a journal from Spain named Maximus, is a favorite of the dying emperor Marcus Aurelius. After Maximus defeats the barbarians, Marcus names him protector of Rome, but he is left for dead by Marcus' sons, a bitter rival named Commodus. The name comes from the Latin of convention and not what you are thinking. After escaping and finding that his wife and son have been murdered, Maximus finds his way to the deserts of North Africa where he is sold as a slave to Praximo, the late Oliver Reed, a manager of gladiators. When Commodus left his late father's ban on gladiators in Rome in an attempt to distract the people from hunger and plagues, Maximus slashes his way to the top, and the movie ends, of course, with the big fight. The same story could have been rousing entertainment. I have just revisited the wonderful Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is just as riveted but 12 times more fun. But Gladiator lacks joy. It employs depression as a substitute for personality and believe that if the characters are bitter and morose enough, we will not notice how dull they are. Commodus is one of those spoiled, self-indulgent, potent Roman Empire made famous in the age of great Roman epics, which ended with Spartacus 1960, watching him in his senates. I recalled Peter Junot's Great Nero in COVID's 1951, collecting his tears of petrity in tiny crystal vials. Commodus has unusual vices even for a Caesar. He wants to become the lover of his elder sister Lucilla, whose son he is bringing up as his heir. The moral backbone of the story is easily mastered. Commodus wants to be a dictator but is opposed by the Senate led by Gracchus. The senator wants him to provide several of the city's Greek district where the plague is raging, but Commodus decides instead on a season of games. Praximo arrives when his seasoned gladiator from Africa, who prove nearly invincible and threaten the empire's popularity. The moral lesson: it is good when gladiators slaughter everyone in sight and then return overpowered to the politicians. The Colosseum protections play like professional wrestling events are staged to recreate famous battle, and after the visitors wipe out the home team, a puzzled Commodus tells his aide, "My history is little hazy, but should not the barbarian lose the battle of Carthage?" Later, an announcer literally addresses the crowd in these words: "Caesar is pleased to bring you the only undefeated champion in Roman history, the legendary Titus." The battle sequences are a pale shadow of the lesser-day choreographed swordplay in Rob Roy 1995 instead of moves we can follow and strategy we can appreciate. Scott goes for middle class for some but insidious events. The crowd cheers, although those in the cheaper seats are impossible to see because of the murky special effects. When Maximus wins his first big fight, it's up to Commodus to decide whether he will live or die. Live, live, the fans chant, and Commodus bowing to their will signal with a thumb up. This demonstrates that Commodus was not paying attention in Caesar's school, since the practice at the Colosseum at that time was to close the thumb in the first to signal life. The extended thumb means death. Likely no one else in the Colosseum knows this either. Cross is efficient as Maximus bordered, taciturn, brooding. His closest friend among the gladiators is played by Dachman Hanso, who played the passionate slave in Amistad. Since protocol required him to speak less than Maximus, he mostly looks ferocious effectively. Nielsen shows the film's most depth as the sister. Proximus is possible as Commodus, but a career actor could have had more fun in the role. Old prompts Harris, Jacobi, and Reed are reliable. Scott does some fancy editing and a little digital work to fill the gap left when Reed died during the production. Gladiator is being hailed by those with short memories as the sequel of Spartacus and Ben-Hur. This is more like Spartacus Light or Dark. It's only interesting to think back a few months to Julius Caesar's Titus for a film set in ancient Rome that's impressively better to look at. The visual accomplishment of Titus James' Gladiator and its story is a whole hike of a lot better than the Gladiator screenplay. Even if Shakespeare didn't make this Titus the only undefeated champion in Roman history. Gladiator, similar to the film Troy, which I will also review, is set a long time in the past. However, Gladiator is take place in a period which is a lot later on than Troy, being that the story is played out in the time of the height of the Roman Empire. The story follows Maximus, a soldier in the Roman army who is highly favored by the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, much to the annoyance of his jealous son Commodus. Upon the death of Emperor Maximus, becomes suspicious about the circumstance and suspect that Commodus was responsible. Before Maximus has time to reveal to the senators and the public his theory about the new emperor and his own father's death, Maximus is put under arrest and sentenced to death along with his wife and son. After fighting to escape, Maximus flees the emperor, rushing to save his family from the death sentence passed on him. Unfortunately, he arrives too late only to find his family butchered. In his despair and devastation, he is picked up by a group of slave traders, finding himself being forced into the gladiator training rings, literally fighting for his life. With the vendetta to avenge his murdered wife and child, Maximus uses his knowledge and battle experience to his advantage to become a gifted gladiator, eventually finding himself in the heart of Rome at the Colosseum, under the emperor's very nose. But will Maximus be able to get his revenge on the man who ordered the death of him and his own family, or will being a fighter in the ring kill him first? The role of Maximus is played by Russell Crowe and is a very powerful and moving role to watch him in. One of the good things about Gladiator is that it is good, just a typical film and lots of fighting and blood, although there is a fair amount of this, so I would avoid this part if you don't like gore, which follows no real kind of storyline, but in fact uses struggle of Maximus to advocate uses on the topic of slavery in the time of the Roman Empire, and the popular gladiator battle which took place throughout. If you have an interest in this period of history or just want an uplifting film that is more or less historically accurate, then this is the film for you. However, I do warn you, you may start beginning to quiet the film from time to time, but this is completely normal if you grow to love this film as much as me. Gladiator Movie Review. When Gore Vidal was hired in 1958 to fix the screenplay for Ben-Hur, then in dire shape, helpless William Wheeler asked him, "These Romans, do you know everything about them? I mean, when a Roman sits down and relaxes, what does be unbuckle?" A very Persian question that unbuckling issue the maker imagining of the word routine combines in giant term is where a film could do easily slip into pathos neutrality and Ridley Scott's richly enjoyable Gladiator. The first proper Roman Rome for 40 years does not quite answer Wheeler quality, but it is so entertaining and carried off with such dash and chutzpah. It makes you forget the old absurdity and wonder where this gender has been all your life. Between the reign of stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius and his dempsey Palatine son Commodus at the end of the 2nd century AD, Scott deftly imagines a doughty soldier bearing the outrageously villain name of Maximus. He is played by Russell Crowe, processing through a kind of trample arc into the A-list arena, grizzle and stubble, and trouble his lips permanently pursued with suppresses contempt for the sinister and humbug rat politician buzzing around him. Having kicked some taunting butt in Germany on the approaches battle scene that start the movie, Maximus is secretly ordered by the ailing Emperor Aurelius Richard Horace to succeed him. Ruling Rome as a kind of Cromwellian Lord Protector, the evil Commodus is very cross and lips scandal, stepping lines like "I'm terribly vexed." He promptly muttered his father, announced his own succession, and ordered Maximus, an innocent wife and son, to be slain. But Maximus escaped and sold into slavery, obsessively trained as an awe-inspiring gladiator, and returned to Rome to triumph as the darling of the mob to exact a terrible revenge. Throughout it all, Cos maintains a tough, slot-mouthed retrievance. He is very persuasive as the Superman of the Colosseum. Maximus is a slave by now, of course, and this picture barely allows him one African comrade in the fellowship of chain and shackle. Maximus is also supposed to hail from Spain, partly given his own ethnic identity as the Spaniard. I had a microsecond review of Maximus raising his sword and buckle in the cause of Leon Gonzalez. He is unmistakably patrician, however, and physically very like Leger Barton, with Barton's better faith and gravel-wise Massimo. But Krauss Maximus is no Mark Antony. There is no destructive love interest in the picture. Maximus is sweetly devoted to his late wife, though it turns out he once had a bit of an unpicking thing gang to his backstory for Commodus' lovely sister Lucilla. Among the toga and tonic wearing ranks, Derek Jacobi supplies some I. Claudius style colonists as Senator Gracious, and the late Avier Reed gives a rather sweet, pageant performance as Praximo, the gladiator trainer who dreams of his own former glories, the presence like so much in the film. Partly computer generated David Hemmings, the former exiguous youth, sports two amorous wide spats eyebrows as Jesus, the director of the Gladiator, reveals. But no hanky panky here. Scott's move here effectively addresses the Roman virtue of melody restraint. Through here, the question that must be asked is where is the traditional Heroism? The massive hunks of male flesh on display do not have the deeply bronzed oiled chicken basting look of shore, and the pecs leak the memory fleshiness of a weaker mature or a Stephen Bond. And Cruz is completely not into climbing into any common male bathing area with his brother officer for some ambitious small talk about snails. When Peter Graves asks the little boy in Airplane if he likes movies about Gladiator, he surely was not what he had in mind. Where Scott really scores is in his big Rome set pieces, especially Cruz's combat with men and tigers in a computer enhanced Colosseum, much bigger and more monumental than the original. 40 years ago, those great spectacles were intended to lure cinema audience away from their new television sets, and part of the thriller lay in knowing that those sets and extras were real. Now they have the same effect as the battle set piece and crowds seen in Pantom Manic, impressive in their way. But that epic innocence for good or ill is quite gone. To add to his state of the art craftsmanship, however, Scott introduces a technique of a perceptibly earlier vintage, a gimmicky pop video flashing and flickering when Maximus has to wield his sword and shield around, a kind of battle straw effect with grates a bit. What finally has to be said is that for all its implausible thrilling and traveling high camp, Scott movie tells an engaging story, and the central arena fight sequence in which Maximus and his gladiator playing the Doom, Carthaginian and up defeating the Romans and reversing history to the Emperor horror is sweetly and unadulteratedly done. A slight demonstration of the confluence of politics and maze entertaining, you will find your thumb twirling upwards. Gladiator is the movie written by David Franzoni, John Lucan, and William Nicholson and directed by Ridley Scott. I am not the fan of Ridley Scott, a statement I am sure I have made multiple times on this channel. I have certainly said it out loud plenty of times. I think he is a fantastic production designer, building words in intricate details, but he is not a constantly strong storyteller or director of human beings. Filmmakers with prolific careers often reveal their personal views for their work, especially if they make big budget Hollywood movie. In Scott's work, I see themes centered around a disdain for how humanity is crushed by institution and the military's glorification. In this film, Black Hawk Down and other, he dramatized and mythologized the warrior figure in a personally comfortable way. Gladiator is the tale of Roman general Maximus, who has helped the empire defeat the German barbarian and is said to return home victorious. Emperor Marcus Aurelius is visiting the battle site and tells Maximus he wants the soldier to become the new ruler, that Marcus' son Commodus is unfit to rule Rome. Before Marcus can tell anyone, This Commodus finds out and suffocates his father. Then he pursued to have Maximus arrested and taken to be executed in the forest. Her defiance. Maximus escapes only to find his family murdered at the hand of his new mad emperor. The fallen soldier is picked up by Salvers and is forced to train as a gladiator with Praximo. Maximus returned to Rome but his time as a fighter in the Colosseum with his life on the line. It's only a matter of time until Commodus learns his new champion identity and Maximus knows he will be living on borrowed time then. But hope may rest with Commodus' sister Lucilia and Senator Gracchus, who realize Commodus' reign will be brutal. Gladiator is a decent movie. At the time, I know it looked impressive. I saw it reluctantly in theater with college friends. I just was a subject matter that never appealed to me. I also don't find Russell Crowe to be a compelling actor. He plays almost everything fairly flat, in my opinion. I have to say some special effects have aged beautifully, other feel painfully dated. The digital slow motion added in post production during the opening battle scene is one of those artifacts of the early 2000s that I found hideous at the time. Instead of setting up the camera for a slow motion shot, they reduced the number of frames per second to result in an incredibly shitty steady effect. Oliver Reed died during filming, so Scott had to use the special effect existed and use lightning to keep the character alive for his final scene in the picture. It is grindingly apparent when we see the digitally restricted Reed, his head posted onto the body of another actor, and the lightning crew doing their best to obscure the details. Even Rome, which was hailed at the time as a wonderful recreation, feels more artificial as so many early digital effects have become in the ensuing decades. I always like to paint to picture like Star Wars with practical effects or even scars on Blade Runner, which hold up better than the early computer generated effect movies. There is nothing remarkable story wise about this movie. The character feels very stock and the story predictable. When you have the main character played in the broadest, uninteresting manner, it's hard to feel invested in the film. Cruise does an adequate job of posing and gymnasting when the script calls on him, but there is no depth or complexity to Maximus. The same could be said about every character in the story. Phoenix is listed as Commodus as a caricature of a bad guy. I could not help but think of Julie Taymor's ostentatious Shakespeare adaptation titles that came out around the same time. That film took similar subject matter and delivered on both strong visuals and great performances. It is a much darker and bleak tale, but in the end, a more honest portrayal of these shallow cables of power and leadership. Gladiator makes you feel good while ultimately saying very little. I do not like to start reviews with the most obvious possible statement that hundreds of people before me have already pointed out. But sometimes it doesn't pay to be clever, and so the 2000 ancient world epic Gladiator is quite clearly when you get when 1995 Braveheart and 1998 Saving Private Ryan have a baby. I would add to the standard version of the story. It's not a very smart baby and it takes neither of its parents' strength. And if I were them, I'd be awfully ashamed of it. And let's not make word neither Braveheart nor Saving Private Ryan are all the smart to begin with. To be fair, the film's DNA include other things as well. The whole corpus of 1950s and 60s sword and sandal epics, for example, a genre that produced many extraordinary spectacles and very few actually watchable films. Gladiator is by no means the worst of the bunch, though there are certain things that I would hope a filmmaker at the cusp of the 21st century would be willing to do that a filmmaker in the heart of the overseers would not and could not. And insofar as Gladiator is pretty violent, though so much less violent than either Braveheart or Saving Private Ryan, that it seems hardly worth taking about in those terms. I does so. However, the one thing I'd desperately want anybody dusting off the 50s Roman epic for a turn of the millennium audience to avoid doing. This is done by director Ridley Scott and the clusterfuck of writers William Nicholson rewriting generally at the last minute a script that John Legan heavily revisited from a original draft by David Franzoni, namely they treat it as something like very scare. Straight cam, the dialogue is lead footed with patterns and grammar most regal. The emotions are one note and heavily underlined, and this is all treated with not a millicole of humor. It's the stuff of melodrama played with an etchingly straight face. Say whatever one will about Braveheart and director Mel Gresham, endless fascination with extreme masculinity, at least in the film, he gets but you need big barrels of silly nonsense to make the ashen face sincerity go down properly. Scott, however, is a director not prone to develop of silliness, nor even the occasional cop. I enter into evidence 2006, A Good Year, one of the most aggressively anti-funny romantic comedies I have ever seen. And Gladiator is spartanish and heavy even by standard. Their dialogue is so self-conscious about its own weight that the story goes. Star Russell Crowe flatly refused to deliver most of his lines and simply roar at them to sound like something a human being would ever say. And since this was right about the exact all-time peak of Russell Crowe being important and powerful, he got to do that. And this is the point where I see one of the handful of unabashedly enthusiastic thing I have to say about a movie whose generally was inspiring reputation baffled me when I was an 18-year-old film geek and still baffle me to this very day. Cruise is traffic in the film and comes powerfully close to salvaging the whole thing. The movie wants to be a passionate character study about a man driven to the edge when his family is butchered and finding himself again. The patchwork quilt of a screenplay keeps it from coming any closer to short of indicating the spots where that character study could be filled in later. But Cruz brings a lot of gravitas to the role of disgraced 2nd century Roman general Maximus Decimus Meridius, a way of carrying his whole body around the knot in the pit of his stomach that makes it very clear, in the absence of plot material, that the character is always obsessing over the severity in his past and all of his present decisions grow out of his past loss. He is, as mentioned, the only performer in the film who stays mostly free, say 90% of the time or more, from the Derry Court Shakespeare of the dialogue and the general sense of glum tragedy. Some member of the cast can make the work. Drake Jacobi basically spent his whole career there and he effortlessly slides into the small role of a cagey politician. And Oliver Reed, who died during production and had the last couple bits of his performance completed by some rationally bad composition of spare footage, choppy CGI, and a voiced and personality is so clearly animated by holding it together and providing he can be a good boy who does not get belligerent and drunk when on set. The tension in the actor's body matched with the overheated material of the story. Mostly thought the actors are lost. Canville Nelson gets the worst of it, stuck with the most incoherently written part. She is a cunning politician, a dissident psychopath, or a scared mother doing what she must to survive in an impossible world. Based only on which of those modes will make any given scene go, stuck with being the only woman of note in a film that could not possibly make it clear that it has no interest in women, and the role completely spams any sort of coping mechanism she might have tried putting in place to retain some kind of legible personality. Joaquin Phoenix is up to something. I wholeheartedly desire his celebrated star-making performance as the scheming Emperor Commodus in 2000. Though now I merely find that it is the wrong performance, not a bad performance, Phoenix, who was apparently openly terrified of being in a production this big in such an important role, plays the campy, over the top version of the movie that I wish the whole movie were. His performance would have fit seamlessly into the 2004 Oliver Stone like film Alexander, for example, to name one of the most prominent of the many vantage gladiator from the first half of the 2000, and one that is absolutely and obviously much worse than Scott's film while being, I think, unabashedly and obviously much more interesting, if only because of how fearlessly weird it is. The lip smacking, serpentive visions of Phoenix performance, augmented considerably by the makeup department and their wise decision to slaughter him in the eyeshadow, is interesting. But it's operating at a perpendicular angle to literally everything else in the whole movie and not in a way that succeeds in setting Commodus out as a freakish aberration. It just makes it seem like Phoenix was not getting any notes. For all I know, he was not. Scott is nobody's first idea of great director of actors I had imagined. It's not that he's bad at it, but it's rarely the main focus of his films, which are much more interested in carefully building a world from the ground up and creating amazing image to build up a generalized mood. Even Thelma and Louise, the closest thing Scott has to capital G, great character story is at least as such about shocking in the librarian promise of the American Southwest as it is about Thelma and Louise themselves. In so much as Gladiator is a violent action movie about finding hope in the midst of nihilism, set all around the Roman Empire of 180 CA, there's our world and our mood. It's more effective than not. The film cost a lot, and you can see that in the hypertopic sets and fancifully quasi-realistic costuming. Gladiator openly take place in a mystical area of imperial Rome rather than an encyclopedia historically accurate version of the empire at any one moment in time, which present a sense of richness and scale that makes his ancient world seems very imposing and grandiose indeed. Unfortunately, some of his grandeur had to be achieved through CGI, which was not the best that money could buy in 2000 and has aged rather poorly since I cannot stop myself from making constant Braveheart comparisons. I have got another one. That film with its literal armies smacking into each other is kind of the last old school historical epic, while Gladiator, finishing up its crowd and sets with CGI, is the fast new school historical epic, and it just feels hollow never more than its mortifying final shot, which proudly rises above the Colosseum of Rome to offer a lingering view of the city that looks much too shiny and smooth. Still, Scott has a well-trained eye, and he and cinematographer John Mathias put together several blood iconic shots of Gladiator striking poses are simply standing against the imposing, massive architecture of the empire just beginning to decay. If the job of a historical epic is to give us rich, patently snapshot of history as visual art object, and I am very happy to say that this is a big part of the job, then Gladiator undoubtedly goes that. It does this sadly in the midst of some of the Patrice first ever editing, which perhaps deals with a complicated shot by optimizing the footage, but there's never really a single place where it feels like shots move naturally into each other. This is even more sadly especially true of the action scenes, which try to combine the brutal force of Braveheart with the cutting edge filming technique of Private Run, and they do. On the level of individual shots, I'm not sure it is the right choice to have made the shutter angle manipulation that gave Private Run its distinctive jerky shooting lock feels of a piece with the film's portrayal of mechanized warfare and with Steven Spielberg's stated goal of suggesting the airless chaos of vintage wartime documentary of footage. Gladiator has no actual reason for copying this technique other than because it looks cool. Same with this elaborate color grading, which makes a world of impeccable bronze humanity offset by the cool blues of nature. It's striking as hell, but if there's a constant strategy for why this is done, I cannot name it. I can think of at least a couple of consistent tragedies, the most important of which sets up the film's identically effective final where Maximus is able to find his absolution. And again, if the unnecessarily aggressive visual style worked better, there still be the matter of this all being cut to rebounds. The action scenes are almost poorly impressionistic. We see a moment here, a moment there, and if we can tell what's going on, it's mostly just because Hans Zimmer's tugging bully of a score, literally very elaborately nabbing chunks from Richard Wagner's Mars the Bringer of War. Enough so that the host foundation unsuccessfully sought Zimmer for copyright infringement, guides us very minutely through everything we are made to feel. For the record, Zimmer is joined his composing duties by Lisa Goddard, who provides the score, ethereal vocal piece, and these are very lovely and pensive and appropriately mournful. But Zimmer's contribution is like throwing a hurricane at a lemonade stand. It's completely swept the movie in rampaging bombast that adds yet a third distinct mood to the stillborn melodrama or strained classical tragedy already at play. I concede to the film's robust fan base that Gladiator is in general a handsome film and it is in general a rousing spectacle despite rottingly mocking the idea that violent spectacle is a terrible thing, albeit one that has needlessly compromised the action scene that ought to be its strongest selling point. Mostly, it just feels inert to me, too many stock characters working their way through too much boilerplate politically off the shore that had been gumming up Roman epic since before Krauss was born. It's by no means a short film and by no means a film that sees fit to spare us redundant scenes and redundant conversation. Just about the only thing that make it look good is that literally every single film that was directly inspired by it considerably worse, just like this is considerably worse than the film that directly inspired it. And I would admittedly probably watch this because most of the 50 movie it has its DNA, but that's a sorry choice to have to make. Looking back at what the last decade brought to the sword and sandal, its track record has to be some depressing things I have ever seen, since every single one of them ranges me to extremely awful. Going back further, we are likely Ridley Scott director 2000 Gladiator as the ultimate return to form to the genre for the new millennium before the likes of Alexander Ronit in its early downfall. Since it had had its 20th anniversary, it's my duty to give my thought out in this life or the next. Roman general Maximus Decimus Meridius is respected by his followmen and by his emperor Marcus Aurelius. His son Commodus is not pleased with the fact that his dad chose Maximus as the new ruler of Rome. Following this decision, he demands Maximus to be executed, escaping his death, the return to his home where his wife and son are murdered. Unable to save them in time, he is then sold into slavery where he is forced to train as a gladiator. To win the crowd, Maximus must rise to the top to push forward his freedom and exact vengeance on Commodus for his what he did. His marks the second of four collaboration between Scott and Cruz, and it should not be a shocker to know that this is the only great one since the other three, A Good Year, Body of Lies, Robin Hood, were not all well received. He completely owned his role as Maximus, which might be the role actor is best known for in his career and the one that pushed him to be more of leading man after Curtis Hansen's Law Confidential and Measurements the Insider. You cannot picture anyone else in the role since he gives a commanding performance. Nothing is stopping his protagonist from getting his way to the top. Using his skill as a general helped him live through each fight All he wanted in life is then go home and be with his family. That's now taken from him in a heartbreaking moment that no man should ever see. His role earned him the Oscar for Best Actor. Did he deserve it? Just rewatching it recently, kind of hard to say since it was between him or Tom Hanks in Cast Away. But I am just happy he has one to his name. This might be a hard take, much as I loved his performance as Maximus. I always thought his role as John Nash in A Beautiful Mind is much better. The one person who came very close to being the scene stealer from Crew has to go to Joaquin Phoenix as Commodus. Avalanche you love to hold. His performance doesn't get much talk about anymore, and it's honestly one of my top three favorites from this now Oscar winning actor. The scene he has with his father after he told him he would not be emperor ultimately showed he is an unstable villain for wanting to live to his expectations. His character, the evilness of both Loki and Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, especially the latter, since he can be a little creepy with his sister. You are a crazy person if you don't think he was great in this film. Some other performers who I thought did a great job were the beautiful Connie Nielsen as Commander's sister Lucilla, Richard Harris, who I just remember as the original Dumbledore from the first two Harry Potter movies as Marcus Aurelius, and Oliver Reed as Proximo, the former gladiator turned trainer. I always knew this was his last film since he suffered a heart attack while taking a break from production. But what you might not know is that they used a digital body double to finish his scene, and I would not even know aside from a couple of shots. It's crazy how it was possible to seemingly recreate an actor's face back in 2000, and it's sort of iffy nowadays. Talking about Saw direction is how he envisioned his take on Rome. I can really tell that he was a fan of Spartacus and Ben-Hur and was influenced by both of them to make this film for a modern audience, making him the right choice for the job. He put together a beautiful looking film for the scope of feeling like you are back in the times of Rome, interacting like you are in the Colosseum rooting for the gladiators to fight for their lives. He has been a hit or miss dictator sometimes, but it's a splendid thing. This was a hit after some noticeable misfire, conquest of paradise, and made this a familiar promise of strength and returned it into something memorable to new heights. Because of this, Scott earned his second Oscar nomination for Best Director. As for the Colosseum sequence, this was incredible. Every movie that tried to copy this film needs to take lessons on how to helm arena scenes that never delves into stupidity. Violent as this may appear, it shows the dangers of being a gladiator when you are fighting for your survival. I would not even last 3 minutes. How intense is it when Maximus is fighting the undefeated Tigress of Gaul and have changed Tiger to make the fight more difficult? Even the opening battle against the Germania tribe stand was never interesting from when it starts. When taking about everything with the production aspect, there's so much to be praised. I love the costume, production design of how it looked like everybody and its setting belong in that period. That goes the same with the visual effect to help out the visual looked at recreating Rom Colosseum is unbelievable. The cinematography from John Mathan is gorgeous to look at with its color scheme in contrast to the dark opening and room presenting the light. And I cannot forget to talk about how amazing Hans Zimmer's score is because he has done nothing bad as far as I know. As I was listening to it, it seems like he recycled some of his piece from Pirates of the Caribbean. But Gladiator is not a perfect film, and here's why. Scott movies are relatively long, which might contribute to why most of them are not too good. I thought there was some pacing issue from here to there, but when there is not a battle going on about, Also, as much as I thought this was a great script from David Forzoni, John Lucan, and William Nicholson, it might not be the most historical accurate to what happened during the Roman Empire in real life, and some elements of the dialogue were not as strong as I thought. As a whole, it's a remarkable revenge tale that's hard to dislike. The more he wins, the more likely of a chance to getting closer to killing Commodus. Becoming one of the most popular film of the year and the director's career, it was nominated for 12 Oscars at the 73rd Academy Award, winning 5, including Best Picture, making it one of the rare summer blockbusters to win that notable achievement. Not only that, but Cruise for Best Actor, and the film also took home costume design, sound, and visual effects. Some have said that didn't deserve to win over something like Traffic or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. We rarely have big summer movies to take some Best Picture, at least on that started the summer movie season. In the end, Gladiator is one of Ridley Scott's better films in the filmography, right up there with The Martian and Blade Runner. This return to form of the swords and scale dramas throughout our exceptional performance from Cruise and Phoenix. Cool action and a rousing story to get excited about. There have been talk about a sequel for a long time, but there should not be, even if it was a prequel. Since this was seen as the next Braveheart, another Best Picture winning that's pretty similar, which one is better? That's a question that shall be answered later on. Was I entertained? Yes, I was. Overall great. The movie is B+. Everyone wants to be remembered. It's the best way men have found to transit death. So doing something remarkable is on most people's mind, especially artists and people involved in the movie industry where immortality is a pertinent currency. Gladiator, like Rome, was born from twin intents, tell a good story and wow the masses with the unequaled epicness. Because greatness is dealt in awe and ahs, and ordinary people boarding with your unlikely hero. Gladiator is an important part of director Ridley Scott's career, for that it scored his place in cinema history. It's as much a vanity project built to promote his filmmaking talent as it is an epic movie about men murdering each other for 2.5 hours. Gladiator is based on the life of Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius and his succession. At the twilight of his life, and the old philosopher names his general Maximus as the man who will take the throne after his death, disowning his son Commodus in the process. Before his father can make it official, Commodus murders him, usurps the throne, and orders Maximus' execution. Every Roman of him I know, in order to avoid any possible blood feuds. Commodus also has Maximus' family murdered in the most vile possible way, because a man has to set an example, I suppose. Only thing in his plan is that Maximus eludes execution because he is an awesome warrior and a survivor, and then Commodus has an hell of a blood feud on his hands. It will all start in the Colosseum as Maximus has become a gladiator by another cool twist of fate. Let the game begin. The screenplay of Gladiator is a thing of beauty. It's one of the main reasons why the movie is successful. The dual narrative of Commodus, Double Train, and Maximus' second rise to power are never complacent and don't draw outside the lines. Gladiator is a movie that understands what it's good at, and it's seamlessly leading to epic battle scene. There is a lot of character development happening during these battles, which has become somewhat of a lost art. He wins the trust of his fellow gladiator in the heat of the battle, and Ridley Scott takes the time to stress the subtle shift in the air in the subsequent scenes, which heightened the emotional power of the film. It's not always about the yelling and swashbuckling, it's about the men who do that. It's a notion that Ridley Scott's number one winner Zack Snyder will probably never get. Viewing Gladiator a decade removed from its initial impact highlight the difficulty of making a historical film historical. Don't get me wrong, I don't care what it echoes details. Commodus actually reigned for 12 years over Rome, and but I don't think it's important. But Gladiator is ancient Rome seen through the glasses of contemporary values. Life is scared, men are noble or evil, the Senate are guiltless politician, the emperor is drunk with power, and the soldier are the most respectable man. That said, it works really well as an allegory for power media and the importance of public opinion. Maximus wins the crowd based on his action inside the Colosseum, as any public figure of today would be judged by what made him popular. Nobody really knows him, but he becomes a symbol of democracy. Symbolism in Gladiator is wrapped up really tight, but it's not a very historical aside for the costume. Ask people you know to name you their three Ridley Scott movies. Good chance you will hear Gladiator, Alien, and Blade Runner in that order. Those who cannot name three will mostly likely only name Gladiator. It's because it's the last great ball size of the famed director. It doesn't matter how elaborate epic it is, it won over the every time's imagination because it was built on a strong and subtly actual screenplay. Moviegoers fail for Maximus the same way they would fall for any athlete or recording artist. The Roman backdrop offered toys and manufactured pathos, but not even that could get in the way of its tremendous story. I was the first surprised that Gladiator withstood the test of time so well, but it didn't. I did so by willingly not sticking with historical material and give the people the ultimate epicness overload. It does not matter if Ridley Scott had immortality in mind when filming Gladiator because the delivering a long, complex, and ominous movie that ultimately gave him that. See how easy it is to be epic when you talk about this movie. When Emperor Marcus Aurelius' son Commodus murdered his father, he must also do away with Maximus Decimus Meridius, the finest general. Maximus escapes execution but finds his wife and child murdered. Wandering and wounded near death, he is picked up and put into slavery and selected to fight for sport as a gladiator. From there, he seeks revenge. The release date of the movie was 12 May 2000. The running time is 150 minutes. Certificate going to 50, and the original title of the movie is Gladiator. Ben Hur, Spartacus, Q Vadis. That was when they made movies as big as cities, proper, meaty, swallow and afternoon films. Well, that may have been out of wax for 40 years is making one hell of a comeback in the grandest tradition of them all. Ridley Scott, together with men of the moment Russell Crowe, has erased the legacy of scandals, swords, and leather as thanks to create a magnificent epic, hammering on all the touchstones of yore while utilizing all the tricks the modern filmmaker has to hand. This is hardly subtle, but its impact is absolute. Its performance loud and clear, and its ambition all up there on screen. Commencing with a full-scale extras, ultimate realism, unbatted battle sequence is a mood-streamed Germancia. We are confronted by a general tired of war and an emperor, Marcus Aurelius, near death. Furious at the bond between Aurelius and his beloved warrior, his unhand hired Commodus kill Pop and Commodus Maximus to death. Big mistakes, especially when she kills his loving wife and child, whom he earns to for by burning and crucifixion. And so the plot follows Maximus' race as a gladiator trained by a remarkably vociferous and effective Oliver Reed, whose face is particularly sacred in certain scenes from beyond the grave, driven by lust for revenge. In the meantime, Rome is in turmoil with the nutty new emperor, played with gleeful harmonized by Phoenix, attempting to dismantle the Senate while his doting sister Lucilla seems to have other plans. And just to make things more complicated, she happens to be Maximus' ex. Russell Crowe was clearly born in a hard month in a hard year during a freak outbreak of total hardness. The man exudes the physicality of a wild animal, shifting testosterone like a pre-plotted Brando. He holds the screen with such assurance and force you simply cannot rip your eyes away from him. When he looks pissed off, as he does for 90% of the time, the movie processes its own gravitational pull. Ridley Scott was also the man of the job, his trademark visual punch making everything seems utterly glorious, no matter how brutally or gritty, presents the event on a truly epic canvas of filtered light and ancient landscapes. CGI has recreated Romer's massive Colosseum and the gore-plated combat sequence therein are literally stunning. The face-off between Maximus and Gladiator bathed in a stream of grog in mid-arena makes a mockery of Banner's fabulous race sequence and utilizing Private Ryan eco-frame jumping techniques gives the fighting a tangible realism that crushes out of the screen. There is an interesting if token commentary on the use of violent entertaining to subvert the muses, but on the whole, historical accuracy is reserved more for the technical elements than any sense of politician, religious, or dialectic truth. Ancient are all over the shop. The film also bubbles in its need to cram so much politicking in to draw in an empire in crisis to the more personal story of man's revenge. While it's all grand opera and driven by sweeping gesture and pompous overwritten dialogue, it is fun to play in slyness, especially in grinding as the big showdown at the close. But the sheer dynamism of the action, coupled with Hans Zimmer's lavish score and the force field of cross, still making this is a fire-come competitor in the summer movie takes. Ridley Scott, the Gladiator movie is one of the best movie of 2000. Gladiator is directed by Ridley Scott. His other famous movies are Blade Runner and Alien and star Russell Crowe, Joaquin, Connie Nielsen, Devil's Advocate, Oliver Reist, Dajman Hansu, and Richard Harris. This film is set during the glory of Rome and centers around General Maximus Decimus Meridius, a general who becomes a slave who attempts to seek revenge against those who brought him there in addition to killing his family. I have a soft spot for Russell Crowe, but part of me does not know if I can legally say that, as I have not watched Gladiator until this review. Why? It is for the same reason I mentioned for Body of Lies in that review. I bought the Blu-ray years ago. In fact, I bought Gladiator almost a year before Bodies of Lies, but I just never got around to it until now. I had no vendetta against either of these movies, but one of the complications of being a movie collector is being able to sit down and watch the new films I buy because I have so many and sometimes want to revisit some favorite titles. One of the silver lining of this series and other review marathons I have done in the past, like the Mortal Kombat films and some of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie like the Adverse End, is that it helps me get around to titles that I have never seen before. In fact, Gladiator is one of those movies much more so than Body of Lies. Then when you bringing up the fact of never seeing it, there is a chance someone will ask if you are a real movie fan. I am a real movie fan. In fact, those of you watching the questioning my move for years should be jealous because I am getting experience this film for the first time. Some may call it being late to the party. I can call it a long-waited ounce of excitement. Gladiator is still in many conversation as a masterclass film. It is 36 dash on the IMDb Top 2050. The film won 5 Oscars, including Best Pictures, Over in Britain, it snatched 4 BAFTAs, including Best Film. There's a plenty of proof to show how much the film has stood as a testament to the industry and the sword and sandal genre, but these are just the opinion of other people. There is only one opinion that matter here, and that is the one of the movie reviewing Braun. So, what did I think of Gladiator? Sorry in advance, I am glad I saw it. Gladiator goes to show to the power of first impression because from the beginning, the film completely immersed me. The film has a story that showcases the glory of Rome, and the film itself carries a similar glory unto its own. There is so much going on inside the screen that it is insane between the humongous cast, which who know how many extras, the beautiful showcasing of fights, and the magnificence on location sets. Gladiator is pleasing to the naked eye. I understand that at the time Star Wars episode, the Phantom Manic was kind of a big achievement in visual effect in terms of how deep they go with certain concepts, how real certain things looked for the time. But if I had to look back on both of these films now, I think Gladiator is the clear winning in terms of which I'm more attractive to the eye. I look back at the Phantom Manica and it sometimes looked like a video game. These have been worse looking effect, but still. In fact, speaking of facts, there was one fight in particular that involves the use of tigers. It is easy to say because I'm not the one making the film, but I kind of appreciated the film's tendency to use real tigers. Now, I did question if the tigers were CG-led, which they partly were. They used blue screen to make the tiger appear closer to the characters. That said, I admire how making Gladiator was probably about as dangerous as being a gladiator. I would have completely understood if this movie went down the full CGI road for the tigers, but the fact that they decided not to is a risk that paid off. What also carried Gladiator are the performance. This is most notable with Russell Crowe as Maximus Decimus Meridius as admirable protagonist. On the other hand, we have J.K. Phoenix as commanders as equally admirable antagonists. Those two deliver two completely different vibes and mannerism into their individual performance, but it does not change the fact that their work in these films are gold mines. Both of their deliveries are incredibly convincing, even just their physicality, just having them stand around had me staring in ooze. But this film is much more than big fights and larger than life sets because I found myself immersed in the drama between the characters. Obviously, there is the main story of Maximus trying to get his revenge, but in addition to that, I also found the family drama on Commodus side to quite compelling between how he gets his power, his relationship with his nephew. I found all of it intriguing. The film does a really good job at balancing various family, political, and personal dramas. I will admit, having watched the film, there are parts of it that drag a little. Summary of the movie: The Gladiator 2000, a glorious epic of honor, betrayal, and redemption. Gladiator, directed by Ridley Scott and released in 2000, is a sweeping historical epic that catapulted audience into the heart of ancient Rome, where honor, ambition, and vengeance collide. Starring Russell Crowe as an Oscar-winning performance, the film tells the captivating story of Maximus Decimus Meridius, a loyal general betrayed by the corrupt Commodus who seizes power and becomes emperor. With its grandiose spectacle, vincent action sequence, and emotionally charged storytelling, Gladiator has cemented its place as a cinematic masterpiece and retained a timeless classic that continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Set in the year 180 AD, Gladiator follows the story of Maximus Decimus Meridius, a distinguished Roman general who has earned the respect and loyalty of his soldier and the aging emperor Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius intended to appoint Maximus as his successor, hoping to restore the Roman Republic and end the era of corrupt leadership. However, before the emperor can implement his plan, his son Commodus, a treacherous and power-hungry young man, murdered him and seized the throne. Maximus, betrayed and left for dead, survives and is captured by slave traders. He is eventually sold to Praximo, a former gladiator trainer, and is forced to become a gladiator fighting for his life in the Colosseum. Maximus becomes an admired and formidable gladiator known as the Spaniard, while maintaining his desire for revenge against Commodus. As the story unfolds, Maximus plots to confront the tyrannical emperor and bring justice to the fallen Marcus Aurelius. His journey of vengeance becomes intertwined with a quest for redemption and the hope of restoring Rome to its former glory. Theme of honor, betrayal, and redemption. Gladiator explore theme of honor, royalty, and the consequences of betrayal. Maximus embodies the ideals of loyalty and honor, earning the devotion of his soldier and the admiration of the audience. His betrayal by Commodus sparks a powerful and emotional journey of seeking justice for his slain emperor and claiming his own sense of honor. Betrayal is a central theme throughout the film as the treachery of Commodus casts a shadow over the Roman Empire. The power hungry emperor betrays the trust of those around him, leading to a tumultuous and morally fraught reign. Redemption is another poignant theme in Gladiator as Maximus' quest for vengeance evolves into a deeper desire to honor the memory of Marcus Aurelius and restore Rome to its former glory. The character's pursuit of redemption becomes a driving force behind his action and decision, setting the stage for a powerful and emotional resonant climax. Russell Crowe's revisiting performance. As the heart of Gladiator is Russell Crowe's mesmerizing, the Oscar-winning portrayal of Maximus Cruz performing embodies the stoicism, resilience, and raw emotion of the character, making Maximus a charismatic and relatable figure. His commanding presence on screen carries the weight of the film's emotional arc, elevating the narrative with a magnetic and nuanced performance. Joaquin Phoenix delivered a standout performance as the despicable Emperor Commodus. Phoenix masterfully portrays Commodus' internal conflict, balancing his insecurities and thirst for power with moments of vulnerability and madness. The complexities of the character add depth to the film's exploration of human nature and the corrosive effects of unchecked ambition. The supporting cast of Gladiator complements the film's narrative and contributes to its overall impact. Oliver Reed's portrayal of Praximo, a seasoned gladiator trainer with a complex past, adds a layer to the story and provides crucial membership to Maximus. Richard Harris' portrayal of Marcus Aurelius is equally poignant, capturing the wisdom and awareness of the aging emperor. The film's grandiose scale and stunning visual crafted by cinematographer John Mathieson passport the audience to ancient Rome. The epic battle sequence, choreographed with precision and artistry, create a visceral and immersive experience, evoking the brutality and spectacle of gladiatorial combat. Hans Zimmer's powerful and evocative musical score elevates the emotional resonance of Gladiator. The score, featuring iconic tracks such as Now We Are Free, enhances the film's dramatic moments and underscores the emotional depth of the character's journey. Gladiator pours a meticulous attention to historical details, capturing the essence of ancient Rome and its society. The film's production design, costume, and set piece contribute to the immersive world building, creating an believable and captivating depiction of the ancient civilization. Upon its release, Gladiator received widespread critical acclaim and commercial success, earning 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Russell Crowe. The film's cultural impact and enduring legacy have solidified its position as a classic of the historical epic genre. Gladiator not only reignited interest in historical epics but also inspired a new wave of epic films in the early 2000s. Its influence can be seen in subsequent films and television shows that explore similar themes of honor, power, and portrayal in historical contexts. In conclusion, Gladiator is a monumental cinematic achievement that remains a testament to the power of storytelling and exceptional filmmaking. Ridley Scott's visionary direction, Russell Crowe's commanding performance, and the film's epic scale combine to create an immersive and emotional charged experience. The theme of honor, betrayal, and redemption resonate deeply with audience, making Gladiator a film that transcends its gender and continues to captivate viewers across generations. As a time-honored classic, Gladiator stands as a majestic and enduring testament to the enduring power of cinema and the eternal struggle between good and evil. The movie Gladiator by Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott's 11th feature film Gladiator seems to be a very culturally significant film that jump-started the trend of the public gaining an interest in ancient Roman history. Released on the 5th of May in 2000, this 2-hour and 51-minute historical fiction film can be used as a tool for those who may want to get into learning about this one specific time period, although it is not entirely accurate to history. The film follows Maximus, a former Roman general turned slave, as he goes on a journey to get revenge on Emperor Commodus for killing his wife and child. One more thing about Maximus, he is forced to participate in Rome's ever-famous gladiator battle throughout his journey. Of course, movies are made for the purpose of entertainment and not necessarily historical accuracy, although those two factors can be dependent on each other if you consider that the audience will have a better experience if the film is accurate. With that out of the way, most of the atmosphere is accurate to the time period. Janty Jerson Daly did a lot of research when figuring out what the costumes of the character would look like if they were actually in that time period. As for the sets, Arthur Max and Crispin Celis paid attention to detail when creating the brilliant sets of Roman, the Colosseum, and the home of the Emperor. Another person that has a lot to do with the accuracy of the film is Luis Giacomo, the casting director that brought on exceptionally talented actors to take on the roles of our main characters. As far as historical inaccuracies go, Gladiator has its fair share. There are small things that don't take much from the film, such as the fact that Spain did not exist at the time of the story and that there is no considered evidence of that thumbs up or thumb down being used in gladiator fight. The only troubling inaccuracies appeared when you start to analyze the movie further, such as wondering if Maximus could ride to Vindobona in the time that he did, or that Commodus already had the spot of emperor and therefore didn't need to murder Marcus Aurelius. It is a fairly accurate film and these flaws don't take too much away from the enjoyment. Film is an art form and therefore completely subjective. The best feature of this film have to be the score composed by Hans Zimmer and Lisa Grodd. The use of lighting and color, the acting and the pacing, these elements all have to do with bringing the audience into the narrative and making them believe that they are right there with Maximus. The music is well implemented and gives the right amount of suspense and emotion needed for the scene it is used on. Joaquin Phoenix made everyone hate Commodus and gave us extra satisfaction when he met his end in the battle against Maximus. Tying the lighting and color into whatever feeling that Maximus has at the moment lets the audience sympathize with him even more than they would have already. The film is nearly 3 hours long and yet it doesn't feel like it because everything is planned out so meticulously that the viewers don't get bored. On the other hand, this film has flaws. The poor treatment of Lucilla, the originally strong character that seems to drop their strength in the last act, is one of the biggest problems in history. She attempted to poison Commodus and was executed for trying to do the best thing for the sake of the Roman Empire. In this movie, she is romantically involved with both of the leading characters, with one being an uncomfortable, incestuous, albeit one-sided relationship with her brother. There was no need for this relationship, and the audience could understand the Commodus was not a good person without having to show him making not even historical proven moves on his sister. A more technical disliking comes from the way that the gladiator battle scene were filmed. The choppy was rush style does convey the anxiety of the scene, but it does eventually give motion sickness if it goes on for too long. There is no doubt that every element of the film, including the parts that we may not even see on screen, were planning with great thought behind them. The lighting of the film is deliberately lacking in scene where Maximus feels small, such as it can be noted that the scene also refrained from showing in a closer shot, further telling us that he is incapable of stopping what he has to happen to him in the near future. There are shots of the crowd deciding whether or not Maximus lives or dies, and the light from the sun shines on the hands of these crowd members. Again, a deliberate element. Ridley Scott chooses angel that will tell the audience who has the power in a sense and who does not, who is good and who is bad. John Matheson, the cinematographer, is the reason of these shots being shown in the way as well as the director. It enhances the storytelling and make it more than just dialogue, but a visual representation of the characters' personalities. As a woman, is it much more noticeable when the writer and creator of the film don't have a female audience in mind. What does this do for women in front of and behind the camera? The talk of Lucilla was discussed earlier in the review, and the problem that her arc has. There is the fact that she is the only female character that is given a name. In fact, the only other female character credited as Maximus' wife was freaked before he could get a line of dialogue. Frightening a character is a common type that we find in film where a character, usually a mother or wife, is killed or injured for the purpose of hurting the protagonist. This film failed all three components of the Bechdel test and overall is not the best when it comes to well-written female character. Gladiator is a film that exceeds expectation when it's come to telling a good story visually and thematically, all while being historically accurate. Ridley Scott knows how to create films that are compelling and makes you believe that you are right there in ancient Rome with the characters. We find ourselves rooting for Maximus and wanting Commodus to be treated the same way that he has been treating everyone else. It is a film that everyone can enjoy given that violence and a little bit of historical inaccuracy is not a turn off, it will keep you entertained. Russell Crowe's next film, the high-octane car chase thriller Unhinged, marked the first major release of the actor's fourth decade in movies. Upon its August 21 release, it would also be the first major film to debut in North America theater during the pandemic. Not to mention the inaugural title from upstart distributor Solik Studios, which seems determined to make Unhinged the country in the coal mine of theatrical exhibition during COVID-19. Cruise might not be the box office draw the once was, but enhanced nonetheless resolves around the actor's still considerable star power, which has paid dividends over the lucrative Hollywood career. Blue will take a look back at the commercial high and low of his British filmography. Confidential 1997. In Engaged, Crew stars as Tom Cooper, a mentally unstable man who talks a young mother and her teenage aunt across America's roadways. It's a role that highlights the brand of Muko Bravo audience first became familiar with via across a breakthrough role in All Confidential, in which the actor played non Los Angeles police officer Benville Mudwhite. Directed by Curtis and Saul L. Confidential upon on September 1997 to rave views, many of them psyching out Cruise's ferocious performance through it never crossed more than 6 million on any weekend domestically. The film was a steady performer that finished its North American run with 64.62 million and another 61 million overseas, bringing its global total to $126 million of a 35 million budget. It also scored 9 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, and won 2 in the aftermath. Cruise, whose previous American film credited including box office flops The Quick and the Dead and First Study, became part of Hollywood's new class of leading men. The Insider 1999. Following a role in the little screen ice hockey film Mystery, Alaska, Cruise receives his best reviews to the date in Michaelman's 1999 drama The Insider, in which the actor played Big Tobacco wrestler Jeffrey Wingon. Through the film was a box office flop, grossing just $29 million domestic and $60 million worldwide off a bloated $90 million budget. Cruise's transformative performance netted him in his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, adding further fuel to his bargaining superstardom. Gladiator 2000. Their superstardom reached full flower with the release of Ridley Scott's Gladiator, in which Cruise played Roman military officer turned slave Maximus Decimus in full action hero mode, opening to a robust $34 million in its opening weekend in early May 2000. Gladiator became a bona fide pop culture phenomenon and a legendary box office performer, finishing its run with $187 million in North America and $460 million worldwide off a budget of $103 million. Its triumph was sealed at the following year Oscars, where the film won 5 out of a whopping 12 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Actors for Cruise. A Beautiful Mind 2001. The massive success of Gladiator had a transformative effect on Cruise's career, counting him as one of the Hollywood's most in-demand leading men. The December 2000 action film Proof of Life failed to catch fire with audience or critics and was largely overdone by his rumored on-set affair with co-star Meg Ryan. His next film, the Ron Howard-directed drama Beautiful Mind, was another blockbuster. Debuting in limited release in late December 2001, A Beautiful Mind crossed 16.57 million its wide debut in early January and ultimately crossed 170 million domestic and 313 million worldwide off a $58 million budget. Widely praised for his performance as mathematician Josh John, who struggled with paranoid schizophrenia, were a focus of the film. Cruise again received an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. The ultimately lost A Beautiful Mind would take home 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, the second year in a row in which Cruise started in the winning film. Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World 2003. Following the release of A Beautiful Mind, Cruise would not appear in another movie for nearly 2 years. He re-emerged with the laboriously titled Napoleonic Wars drama Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World, in which the actor started as a Royal Navy captain who doggedly pursued a French warship off the coast of South America. It opened to a decent 25.11 million in North America. The Peter Weir directed film was expensive. Its budget was reported to be $150 million, and it ultimately failed to catch on with audience in the way either Gladiator or A Beautiful Mind had. It finished its run with $93.93 million domestic and $211 million worldwide. Impressive numbers for nearly any other film, but disappointing for one with such a hefty price tag. Nonetheless, Master and Commander snagged 10 Academy Award nominations the following year, including Best Picture, and won 2 including Best Cinematography, a note for Cruise, such a favorite with awards voter in previous year, did not materialize in the Best Actor category, however. Cinderella Man 2005. A series of commercial disappointment would follow over the next several years. Our slight example was the true life boxing drama Cinderella Man, another pairing between Cruise and his beautiful mind director Howard. Highlight as another potential awards contender, Cinderella Man was nonetheless released on June 3, 2005, the height of the summer blockbuster season. It was previously slated for a fall 2004 release but was pushed back after Cruise suffered it on set injury. With an opening weekend gross of 18.23 million, Cinderella Man debuted below expectation and failed to hold up in subsequent frames despite a largely positive reaction from critics. It did not help the Cinderella Man arrived with a heavyweight $88 million budget, likely polluted by Cruise and co-star Renee Zellweger A-list salaries, making its ultimate gross of $61 million domestic and $108 million global a disappointment in relative terms. Interestingly, Cruise's first reunion with Ridley Scott, who like Howard had directed one of Cruise's biggest box office success, also failed to ignite. That film was the very ungladiator-like romantic comedy A Good Year, which started out of the gate in November 2006, crossing just $7.5 million domestic and $42.27 million global of a $35 million budget. The following September, the Western remake 310 to genre debuted somewhat promising with $14.4 million in its opening weekend, but failed to keep up the momentum, ultimately landing at $53.61 million in North America and $70.2 million worldwide, a disappointment given its reported $55 million budget. Cruise's only real hit in the mid to late 00 was its next film with Scott, American Gangster, starring Denzel Washington as real-life drug trafficking Frank Loser and Cruise as the detective investigation him. The film opened on November 2, 2007 with a muscular $43 million in North America and finished its domestic run with $130 million worldwide. American Gangster brought in $269 million, enough to justify its $100 million budget, though Washington, not Cruise, was the film's real star. Robin Hood 2010. Despite the rare bright spot of American Gangster, Cruise's commercial track record continued on shaky ground for the next several years. His fourth film with Scott, the 2008 action thriller Body of Lies co-starring Leonardo DiCaprio, grossed $115 million worldwide of a $70 million budget, while the 2009 political thriller State of Play fared even worse, bringing in $87.81 million of a budget of $60 million. Cruise's professional relationship with Scott continued with his next film, the mega-budget 2010 Robin Hood. Third managed to gross $105 million domestic and $321 million worldwide. The retailing arrived with a hefty price tag in the realm of $200 million, dampening what might otherwise have been viewed as a solid hood for the actor-director duo. Like many releases starring Cruise, the problem with the film lay in its exorbitant production cost. Between LA Confidential and Robin Hood, the average budget of a Russell Crowe production came in at over $81 million, a number few stars have the training power to justify. Noah 2014. In terms of commercial performance, things would improve considerably for Cruise over the following decade. His next film after Robin Hood 2010, The Next 3 Days, was all but ignored by domestic audience and made just $67 million at the worldwide box office, but its budget was a relatively low $30 million. 2 years later, he would score his first real success since American Gangster with director Tom Hooper's star-studded musical adaptation of Les Miserables, in which Cruise appeared opposite heavy hitters Anne Hathaway and Hugh Jackman. Made on a budget of $61 million, he acclaimed film opened to a solid $27 million in North America over the Christmas holiday and ultimately grossed muscular $148 million domestic and $441 million worldwide. Les Miserables went on to score 8 Oscar nominations including Best Picture and won 3 including Best Supporting Actresses for Hathaway. As successful as Les Miserables was, the film was not a traditional starring vehicle for Cruise, instead functioning as more of the ensemble piece from a marketing perspective. His presence was much more essential to his next film, 2013 Broken City, in which he starred opposite Mark Wahlberg. The film reported to just $34.74 million worldwide of a $35 million budget, while his next two movies, the blockbuster superhero Robot Moon of Steel and romantic fantasy Winter Tale, featured him in supporting role. It was with Noah, a retelling of the biblical tale directed by Darren Aronofsky. The Cruise would enjoy his biggest success in over a decade. Released on March 28, 2014, the $125 million production or $160 million depending on the source grossed a hefty $43.72 million in its opening weekend, the highest of Cruise career to date, not counting Man of Steel. It would go on to gross $101 million in North America and over 2 times that amount overseas, ultimately landing with $359 million worldwide. While not quite a Gladiator level blockbuster, the film nonetheless gave Cruise his greatest commercial success since 2005, A Beautiful Mind, The Night Skies 2016 and Beyond is also his film. Gladiator ending explained. Gladiator is one of the most famous movies of the 2000s and it is often credited with revitalizing the historical epic genre, but the ending leaves a few important questions to consider. Gladiator follows the life of a fictional Roman general named Maximus Decimus Meridius, played by Russell Crowe. Maximus grows close to the current Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who informs Maximus that he will be named protector of Rome once Marcus Aurelius dies. Commodus, the son of Marcus Aurelius, learns of his plan and kills his father. He ordered his men to execute Maximus and kill his family. Maximus manages to escape and races home to save his family, but arrives too late, finding his wife and son crucified outside their home. Afterward, Maximus ends up being captured by enslavers and forced to become a gladiator. After many victories, Maximus is taken to Rome to fight in front of the emperor, now Commodus. After Commodus discovers Maximus' identity, he tries to arrange his death in the arena, but the plan fails. Maximus hatches a plan of his own to turn the army against Commodus, but Commodus learns of it and captures him. Commodus challenges Maximus to a duel, and though Maximus kills Commodus, he dies of his wounds. Why Maximus dies in Gladiator? Maximus dies in Gladiator from the stab wound in his lung which was given to him by Commodus before their final duel. Commodus wants to regain the respect of the Roman people by killing Maximus, their champion. However, Commodus knows he could not defeat him in a fair fight, so he visits Maximus before the fight and stabs him in the back. Despite this serious injury, Maximus managed to kill Commodus in single combat, but he bleeds out shortly after their fight. Maximus' labor breathing and the position of the stab wound from Commodus show that it was a punctured lung that killed him. Gladiator killed its main character for a couple of reasons. Firstly, revenge must have consequences, and Maximus' vendetta should not have an entirely happy ending. In the end, Maximus is trying to kill someone in retribution for the murder of his family, and while the killing might be justified, this type of violent vengeance is always self-destructive. Secondly, death was the natural conclusion of this arc. Maximus' family was his purpose, and after their death, vengeance was all he had left. After getting his revenge, he has no reason to keep living. In fact, Maximus was clearly ready to meet his end and reunite with his family in the afterlife. As Maximus dies at the end of the Gladiator, Lucilla whispers to him that he is home. Her final word to Maximus come to him as he is having vision of his wife and son on their farm in Trujillo. Lucilla says that he is home because she knows he is going to be with his wife and son in the afterlife, while his home may have been destroyed in the living world. She knows he is going to see it again in Elysium and be reunited with his family. What happens to Rome? In terms of what happened to Rome after the events in Gladiator, one can only speculate. None of these events happened in real life. The real Commodus ruled for 10 years after his father's death, and the Republic was never close to restoration. But it can be assumed that the Roman Senate regained power after Commodus' death. Commodus has no children in the movie and he never names on hire, so it's responsible to assume that the Senate were the only player left to fill the power vacuum. The only living character from Gladiator who might have had a claim to be emperor would be Lucius, Lucella's son. However, Lucella was in favor of Marcus Aurelius and Maximus planned to restore the Republic, so it's unlikely she would have put her son forth as a claimant. Moreover, the Senate already had enormous power and influence, so it would not have been hard for them to take control. The Roman people seem to resent Commodus, and it's unlikely they would have been yearning for another emperor after his reign. All that being said, the only logical conclusion is that the Senate restored the Republic as Maximus wished. The real meaning of Gladiator's ending. Gladiator's ending is about the triumph of Maximus' honor and discipline over the cowardice and sadism of Commodus. Moreover, it's about the complex morality of revenge. Maximus has an honorable reason to pursue vengeance, but it becomes his only purpose in life. His death at the end of the movie shows that a person consumed by vengeance loses the rest of themselves. After killing Commodus, the only thing Maximus wants to do is to be with his family again. So there would be nothing to do with his character if he had lived. While Maximus' death may serve as a warning about revenge, his victory over Commodus serves to elevate the virtues emphasized by Marcus Aurelius just after Gladiator's epic opening. Commodus mentioned his father's belief in four chief virtues: wisdom, temperance, justice, and fortitude, while Maximus has these traits. Commodus admits his virtues such as ambitions lie elsewhere. Maximus' victory in the arena and symbolic of his virtues, triumphing over those of Commodus. Ridley Scott's original plan for Gladiator's ending explained. While the final version of Gladiator sees Maximus die at the end, Director Ridley Scott's original plan was for Maximus to live. However, when filming, Scott supposedly decided that it would hurt Maximus' arc to keep him alive after his duel with Commodus. Maximus has fulfilled the only remaining purpose in his life at this point, so it's best for him to die and be reunited with his family. It's interesting that Scott decided he is well into the filming process, but regardless, it may have saved Gladiator because any other ending for Maximus would have felt wrong. Gladiator 2 set up how Lucius returned. Gladiator 2 will follow the life of Lucilla's son Lucius. He is a boy of about 8 during Gladiator, and though Commodus may subtly threaten him to court Lucilla, he is alive and well at the end of the film. Gladiator 2's cast also revealed that Lucilla will be returning to guide her son and provide some continuity between the sequel and the original. Lucius will likely be a warrior and with the same virtues and characteristics as Maximus. This would make him a worthy successor to Maximus' legacy and follow upon his admiration of Maximus in Gladiator. Gladiator will take place 20 years after the original, and Lucius will likely have to save the Republic that Maximus restored it. The ending of Gladiator movie explained. The most famous scene in Gladiator is the one that launched 1,000 memes, to use a phrase from a different ancient European society. Russell Crowe Maximus asks the crowd, "Are you not entertained?" after executing a double sword beheading an unfortunate opponent, delivering an iconic moment in a movie and internet history. But frankly, the rest of Gladiator also deserves a standing ovation from an arena full of bloodthirsty Roman citizens and modern audience, especially the ending. As promised is another well-known speech, Maximus does indeed have his revenge on father, emperor, wife, child, killer Commodus. But shortly after dispatching the megalomaniacal emperor, Maximus comes to his own injuries and dies in the blood and sand of the ring, although not without making sure his fellow gladiators are freed first. The powerful ending of Gladiator make it one of those movies granted to make anyone carry, but it's also oddly satisfying. We will explain. Maximus achieves his noble goals at the end of the Gladiator. It's fair to say that the audience is pretty attached to Maximus by the end of Gladiator, watching him collapse and die after restoring his own freedom and righting Rome of its tyrant in chief seems like, well, a donor. A more fun alternative would be having Maximus and the Senate recover control of Rome, while Maximus get to experience a new family life with Lucilla and her son Lucius. However, the ending, while sad, it's true to Maximus' goal. He wanted to avenge the death of his wife and son, as well as clear the way for the Senate to restore order in Rome. Conveniently, both of these goals are achieved by killing Commodus. Once that's done, he only has one more goal: reunite with his family in the afterlife. The ending, however, sad to viewers, allows him to do that. Indeed, director Ridley Scott's vision of Maximus slowly walking toward his family through the field of their farm as he is dying is one of the most moving moments in movie history. Interestingly, it took Scott a while to realize that, like a static emperor at a gladiatorial display, the ending demanded Maximus' death. Crowe told Emperor magazine in 2020 that originally Maximus survived. Crowe said that he used to joke that his character would end up running a pizzeria by the Colosseum. Fortunately for movie posterity, Scott came up with the idea for the gladiator death scene during filming. Unlike Commodus, Maximus is not driven by a desire for power but by loyalty to the true emperor whom Commodus murdered and to his family. Dying and going to Elysium is a more fitting reward for him than taking control of Rome. The ending of Gladiator looks visually optimistic for Rome. Maximus is given a very clear ending, but what about the rest of Rome? The emperor is dead, and it's looked like Maximus' death might galvanize the already frustrated Senate to try to correct the damage Commodus inflicted during his rule. But does this mean Lucius, who is only a child, will be the next emperor? The movie doesn't answer this, and we never got to see Gladiator 2, but since Gladiator is based on a true story, short of, we can look at the history to see what might have happened next. Be warned that if you thought Maximus' death was sad, you really will not like this. The real Commodus was also a Gladiator superfan and he really did get in the arena and fight people. Unlike Maximus, they all let him win, letting him injure them to a non-fatal degree and then conceding, per alle times. Murdering the emperor, after all, was frowned upon, even one as hated as Commodus, who had bankrupted Rome with his egotistical demands and was infamous for ordering cruel execution. The real Commodus was also taken out by a Senate plot, although less publicly. After a few unsuccessful attempts, he was struggled to death in his bathroom by a professional wrestler moonlighting as an assassin. Unfortunately, the damage to Rome was already done. Commodus' death sparked a civil war when eventually led to military rule that remained in place for a century and destabilized the empire. The ending of Gladiator make it seem like Commodus' death means a new beginning for Rome, but in reality it was marked the end of the promise of Rome. Roman retribution and Elysian reunion. Ridley Scott Grecius Roman revenge film Gladiator has remained a staple of historical epic since it was released back in 2000. With its sweeping vistas of Roman iconic and forever quotable scenes and brutal action, the film is a beautiful and visceral image into one of the largest empires of the ancient world. Maximus Decimus Meridius, a Roman general turned gladiator after his loyalty to the empire leads to his family's murder, is portrayed as an unstoppable force that survives cruel betrayal, the murder of his family, and the corning of the gladiator arenas to reach the seemingly untouchable and scheming Commodus. The film's ending, a fight to the death between Maximus and Commodus, fixed beforehand by the latter literally stabbing him in the back, is a magnificent fulfillment of the film's arc for both Maximus and Rome's Republic. Maximus avenges the death of his wife and son by killing Commodus while also imparting to the crowd before he dies the final request of the assassinated emperor Marcus Aurelius to return home to the people. With Scott announcing plans for a Gladiator sequel, now's the time to explore the ways in which the monumental film's ending is so satisfying. Gladiator ending illustrates the disparities between Maximus and Commodus. Throughout the film, Maximus and Commodus are portrayed as full of one another, the former earning popular respect from the people no matter where he fights, be it is a battlefield or an arena. The latter losing that respect as he grows more fearful of losing his authority. Nowhere in the film is his juxtaposition more potent than the final scene. Commodus sees the toll as his only means of regaining the people's love, vanquishing their hero and turning him into just another warrior slain in the Colosseum dust. But his plan backfires even as he risks the right. When Maximus managed to disarm Commodus as he asked for aid, Quintus refuses and orders the Praetorian Guard not to intervene. It's a powerful moment, especially since it was Quintus who helped carry out the order that nearly led to Maximus' execution. The refusal of Commodus' own guard is the final blow to his authority as the emperor, and the final shot of Commodus' body being left on the Colosseum floor and Maximus being carried off by the Praetorians and Senator further underscores the revenge of the former general over the now dead false emperor. Maximus avenges and is reunited with his family. When Marcus Aurelius tells Maximus that he wants him to lead the empire rather than his own son, Maximus rejects the offer. He explains that he has served Rome in every way that he can and now desires only to return to his family. It's that singular desire that drives Maximus throughout the film after his wife and son are mercilessly killed and crucified at Commodus' orders. Vision of him entering Elysium crossing field of wheat to reach them in dreamlike sequence are conjured up to remind us that behind his desire for revenge is a nullifying hope for peace in being reunited with his family. That's why when Maximus falls after defeating Commodus, his death is never treated as defeat. In fact, Cruz has revealed that Maximus was not originally died at the film's conclusion, but that Scott made the now necessary change halfway through filming. It's hard to see the film ending differently given that Maximus' sole purpose, the very same one he had at the beginning of the film, is to see his family again. His success proves his goal unstained by the Commodus treachery as Maximus stands in the arena surrounded by the Praetorian Guard and thousands of Roman citizens. He sees only the face of his family smiling back at him, and there is a truly powerful sense of peace that wishes over him and the audience as we finally sees our hero reach the end of his laborious and painful journey. The Republic of Rome is restored. When Maximus finally drives a knife into Commodus' neck, he effectively ends the reign of an emperor driven made by jealousy and fear. He then carries out the last wishes of Commodus' father, the assassinated emperor Marcus Aurelius, telling all present that Rome is to be reunited to the Senate and thus the people. In restoring Rome to a republic, Maximus once again reject the lust of the power that poisoned Commodus and fulfill his duty as a Roman soldier and citizen. He also asked that his fellow gladiator be freed and that Senator Crucius, one of the men who helped him plot against Commodus, be restrained. While Maximus' main drive might be in killing the man who had his family murdered, he never forgot his duty to Marcus or the Roman people. His personal strife makes him relatable, but it's a trapping of a tyrant and his hope that the people of Rome come together now to build something better that makes him in an aspirational ideal. The meaning of Maximus' dream in Gladiator. Gladiator ending shows Maximus Decimus Meridius experiencing a bittersweet dream, one that sums up the film's thematic storyline and hints at the exploration of something deeper. With Gladiator 2 continuing the franchise story in November 2024, the question of where to rewatch Gladiator will be on the lips of many. Maximus and Lucius' relationship in Gladiator 2 will provide a through line between both movies, meaning familiarizing the former story is beneficial before viewing the highly anticipated sequel. Gladiator is somewhat based on a true story with the death of Marcus Aurelius during the Marcomannic Wars in 180 AD being taken from real Roman history. A character who did not actually exist in real life yet was based on several real Romans throughout history in Gladiator Maximus Decimus Meridius, played by Russell Crowe. Gladiator tells Maximus' story of revenge against the immortal Emperor Commodus, with the former fighting his way through gladiatorial combat to avenge the death of his family. This culminate is an emotionally stirring dream sequence, one that has deeper implication than first through. Maximus dreams of his family in Gladiator. In Gladiator ending, Maximus gains the admiration of the Roman population thanks to his action in the Colosseum. Eventually, this leads him to the final showdown that he desired between himself and Gladiator Vilnius Emperor Commodus, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Commodus does not play fair, however, and injures Maximus before the fight begins. Nonetheless, Maximus overcomes Commodus and wins the fight, killing him and getting the revenge he has long desired. Gladiator ends with Maximus coming to his wound as a dream sequence in intercut with his death. As Maximus is outlining, Marcus Aurelius wishes for a return to a somewhat democratic role of Rome, and he envisions the entrance to his farmhouse and the road leading to his estate. Lined with olive trees, Maximus then sees the now iconic gladiator shot of himself walking through field of grain with his hand pushing against the stem. As he does, he falls to the ground in the Colosseum at the side of his deceased wife and son in the vision. As Maximus dies, the dream shows his son running toward as his wife looks on. Why Maximus sees his family in his dream? The reason why Maximus sees his family in the vision stems from Gladiator's main plot. The film is driven by Maximus' need for revenge against Commodus, who at the beginning of the film planted Maximus' prospective rise to emperor by killing Marcus Aurelius and claiming the title for himself. Maximus did not care about this as he did not wish to become emperor. However, Maximus also refuses to join Commodus as he simply desired to return home to his family. Driven partly by jealousy of his father's love for Maximus and partly by petty contempt, Commodus ordered Maximus killed. Maximus' entire story surrounds this plot point, explaining why he sees his family in the dream. During Gladiator ending, his family has been avenged and he can return to them. Before Maximus is killed by Commodus' men, he is alerted to the fact that his family is also being targeted. Maximus manages to survive by killing Commodus' soldier and rushes home to find his wife and child already dead. Maximus is then taken by soldiers and forced into life as a gladiator, which he eventually realizes in his ticket to gaining revenge against Commodus for the murder of his family. Maximus' entire story surrounds this plot point, explaining why he sees his family in the dream. During gladiator hunting, his family has been avenged and he can return to them. Is Maximus' dream a glimpse at the afterlife? Knowing the backstory of Maximus and his family, it could be the case that Gladiator dream sequence is not a dream at all. But Maximus entering the afterlife, this is certainly hinted at throughout the movie and makes a lot of sense given what it presented. An iconic quote from Gladiator shows Maximus talking to his men when he was a general in the Rome army. He states to his soldier that if they ever see themselves walking alone in green field with the sun on their faces, they are in Elysium and are already dead. In Greek and Roman mythology, Elysium was the heavenly afterlife where heroes were sent if their deeds in life saw this blessed by the gods. Maximus' dream in Gladiator ending echoes these words with the soldier walking through fields toward his family with the sun blaring behind him. Therefore, it could be the case that Maximus' dream is actually a view of the Roman afterlife as he enters Elysium to be reunited with his family. As Maximus dies, an overhead shot is shown of the ground beneath him slipping away while his body remains, further hinting at his transition into the afterlife. It also makes sense for Maximus and his family to have been blessed by the gods. Maximus' wife and son were wrongfully killed by Commodus for no reason outside of his mad craves for power and his jealousy, meaning the gods could have blessed them with an afterlife in Elysium. Similarly, Maximus always fought for the good of his family and his men, be it in the army or the arena as well as for Rome. As such, it makes sense for the gods to also bless Maximus with Elysium so he can see his family once more. The thematic meaning of Maximus' dream in Gladiator. Overall, Maximus' dream is a perfect way to sum up Gladiator thematic elements, although Gladiator has many themes woven throughout its story, from political and class commentary to even the horrors of war. The story hangs on Maximus' journey. Where this arc is concerned, it can be summed up with two of Gladiator's other most recognizable lines: "What we do in the life echoes its entirety and strength and honor." Before his death, Maximus lived with honor despite being away from his family for years and wanting nothing more than to go home. He always did what was right for his men, for Rome, and for his friend Marcus Aurelius. In doing so, he also kept his family safe and longed to return to them. Upon their wrongful death and Commodus taking power from his father, Maximus dedicated himself to seeing these wrongs put right. Not only did he kill Commodus and avenge his family, but he told the Roman people of Marcus Aurelius' dream for the empire before dying. Maximus, as everyone should, fought against corruption and for simple ethics that should always be upheld. Through these many elements, Gladiator showed that Maximus' code of honor that long permeated his life echoed entirety after his death. He lived for the right reasons and always fought for just causes, eventually seeing his family again and reuniting with them forever in Elysium. Thanks to Gladiator's dream sequence, the thematic resonance shines the Maximus as everyone should fought against corruption and for simple ethics that should always be upheld: honor, love, and family, thus echoing entirety as a legend of Rome. For reason, it's good Russell Crowe's Maximus will not return in Gladiator 2. Gladiator 2 is officially happening, and although Russell Crowe played the original film's main character, it's good that Maximus will not return in the sequel for four big reasons. Gladiator is one of the most beloved films of the year 2000, having had an immense cultural impact and winning Best Picture at the Oscars. Because of this, some have hoped that Maximus will return for Gladiator 2, as Russell Crowe's character is a franchise staple. However, bringing Maximus back from Gladiator 2 would not only hurt the sequel due to it not making sense but retrospectively hurt the original film as well. Ridley Scott's Gladiator was a huge financial and critical success when it was released in 2000, with the film being considered one of the highlights of the esteemed director's career. Due to its legacy, it's surprising that a Gladiator sequel has taken this long, as it has been a little too long to capitalize on the original success. However, Ridley Scott has finally confirmed that Gladiator 2 is happening, and the film will follow Paul Pascal's Lucius, the nephew of the original film's villain, Commodus. Interestingly, Russell Crowe has said that he is not returning for Gladiator 2, which is a good thing. Russell Crowe's Maximus has a perfect ending in Gladiator. The biggest reason Russell Crowe's Maximus should not return in Gladiator 2 is that the character already had a perfect ending in the original Gladiator. Despite Gladiator being a fantastic film, its characters are fairly simplistic, with Maximus solely driven by vengeance. In Gladiator, Commodus puts on a coup that ends with Maximus' family being killed and Maximus being sold into slavery. Due to his love for his family, Maximus wants to work his way back to the top of the Roman politician's spear to kill Commodus, which he eventually pulls off by participating in the gladiatorial games. Maximus dies at the end of the Gladiator after having accomplished his mission, with his final scene being him reuniting with his wife and son in the afterlife. This beautiful scene perfectly caps off the story of Maximus in the world of Gladiator, and bringing Russell Crowe's Maximus back in Gladiator 2 would be a huge mistake because of this. Maximus' story is so perfectly tied off that adding any extra content could risk hurting the simplicity and beauty of the original. Dragging Maximus back into the mix in Gladiator 2 would be nothing more than nostalgia bait, tarnishing the motivation that makes his character so great. Gladiator 2's Maximus return idea were all ridiculous. After reason that Russell Crowe not returning in Gladiator 2 is a good thing, is that very idea for his return was utterly ridiculous. The main suggestion for how Maximus could return in Gladiator 2 have to do with the sequel's protagonist, Lucius. In the original film, a young Lucius looks up to Maximus, enjoying watching the gladiator fight. While there is a nice connection between the two, it is not significant enough to warrant having Maximus appeared in a flashback or dream that an adult Lucius has in Gladiator 2. It would be incredibly hard to work one of these scenes without it feeling contrived or forced, meaning it's a better idea to just completely leave Maximus out of Gladiator 2. It would not make sense to only bring Maximus back for Gladiator 2. Although Maximus is the main character of the original Gladiator, it would not make sense for him to be the only character brought back to Gladiator 2. If Lucius were to have a dream about Maximus, it would only make sense for Lucius to also dream about other characters that had a much bigger impact on him. For example, it would make more sense for Lucius to dream about his uncle Commodus, his grandfather, and his mother, meaning Gladiator 2 would have to also bring these characters back. Additionally, many other characters have a more well-defined relationship with Lucius than Maximus, meaning Maximus' return just would not make sense. Bringing back all of these characters would also further hurt the world and story of Gladiator. They would turn Gladiator 2 from a personal story about Lucius into a nostalgia first featuring many of the original Gladiator's main characters. Bringing them all back would feel unnatural, but they would have to all return for Maximus' return to make sense.